Our topic tonight is a fascinating one that will arouse and arrest attention, one that is very pertinent for the time in which we now live. It is Imam Mahdi and the end time. Let us begin with that hadith with which you are all familiar. You know which one? The 10 major signs of the last day. And if you've not memorized it as yet, I suggest that you memorize it before you leave the masjid tonight. The companions of the Prophet ﷺ were sitting, talking amongst themselves when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ came and asked, "What are you talking about?" And they said, "O Messenger of Allah, we are talking about the subject of the Alamatu Sa'ad, the signs of the last day, of the end time." And then he said, as only a prophet could say, the last day would not come until, and then he mentioned 10 signs. These have come to be known as the major signs. I don't know who coined that term, but there are many, many others beside these 10. For example, when next you go to KLCC, you'll see some of these. He said that the naked, barefooted shepherds, they don't like this language at all. The naked, barefooted shepherds will be competing with each other in the construction of tall buildings. In other words, an age will come when men will measure progress, not by how faithful you are to Allah and His Messenger, not whether you are following Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam or following Dajjal. No, they will measure progress by how tall a building we can build. Let those who have eyes open their eyes and see, and those who have hearts use their hearts to understand. He said that women would be dressed and would yet be naked. And so next time you go out and you see them like that, your heart should shiver with fear. How did he know it? 1400 years ago in the desert, a man who never traveled the world, how did he know that an age will come when women will abandon the hijab? How did he know that women will be dressed and yet be naked? And there are so many more. But tonight, we return to those 10 which are known as the major signs. Number one, and they have not been given in the chronological sequence in which they will occur. No. Number one, Dajjal, the false Messiah, Al-Masih al-Dajjal. Number two, Gog and Magog, and I have just written a book on Gog and Magog. Number three, the return of the son of Mary, Ibn Maryam. And so when that fellow in the place called Qadian in India declared that he was the fulfillment of this prophecy of the return of the son of Mary, the true Messiah. You know which one I'm talking about? A man named Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, founder of the Ahmadiyya movement with which Washington is so much in love, and London is so much in love, and Jerusalem is so much in love today. When he declared that he is the fulfillment of that prophecy of the return of the son of Mary, we say to him, and I don't know why he runs away when we ask the question, how come you are the son of a Punjabi woman? Number 4, dukhan, smoke. And if you read this book on Gog and Magog, I have offered an opinion. And let me repeat it one more time. When Imran gives an opinion, never accept that opinion unless and until you are convinced that it is correct. But I have the right to offer an opinion, provided that I recognize that only Allah does not make mistakes. So we say, Allahu A'lam, Allah knows best, that this dukhan or smoke is coming maybe 20, 25 years from now, when the cataclysmic clash with nuclear weapons occurs between Gog and Magog. And you don't need a PhD in international relations to know that we are moving towards that clash. Thousands of nuclear weapons exploding. Can you imagine the clouds? The mushroom clouds? Number 5, Dabbatul Ard, or the beast of the land. Ard is material universe. Ard is the earth. Ard is the land. For example, Al-Ardul Muqaddasa. Number 6, that the sun would rise from the west. I have given my opinion, and I have the right to give my opinion. Even if 999 differ with me, that's their right. Why deny me the right of offering my opinion? My opinion comes from the Quran. My primary source of guidance is from the Quran, not from some textbook of electricity and magnetism and polar magnetism. The Quran tells me that the sun rises from the east, and I gather that in Malaysia it also rises in the east. And the Quran tells me, La tabdila li khalqillah, that Allah's creation does not change. And so I have chosen to understand the hadith, not literally, but symbolically, that something is going to happen which would symbolize a false sunrise from the west. And I have understood that to be modern, godless, decadent, oppressive, awesomely deceptive Western civilization. And Allah knows best. Number 7, 8, and 9. 3 earthquakes resulting with movements of the earth, in which the earth sinks down, khas, and swallows what it swallows. 1 in the east, 1 in the west, and the 3rd one in Arabia, and the 3rd one is linked with Imam Mahdi. And number 10, that the fire will come out of Yemen and drive people to their place of assembly. Of these 10, the Quran singles out 1. And Allah says of that one, the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, وَإِنَّهُ لَعِلْمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ, it can be read that way, or لَعَلَمٌ لِلسَّاعَةِ, it can also be read that way. Perhaps that ilm and alam here are synonymous. Ilm means knowledge, alam means sign. That this is the sign of all signs, the return of the son of Mary, Nabi Isa alayhi salam, the most powerful voice in history ever to have prophesied the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. The return of Jesus is the voice of Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wa sallam. Even if we did not have the ahadith, it is still possible, using the Quran alone, to establish belief in the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. And so if you reject belief in the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, you will not be able to understand the end time. No. No matter how great a scholar you may be, there is a branch of knowledge which studies and explains the end time. In Bahasa, in Malayu, you call it ilmu Akhirul Zaman. And in the English language, we call it Islamic eschatology. Don't bother with the big word. Islamic eschatology. Since we now have the tall buildings, I don't know whether you have missed it. If you have, take a taxi to KLCC, you'll see it. The evidence is there as plain as daylight that we're now living in the end times. And so it is Islamic eschatology which will explain the world today, not the New Straits Times, and not your local television station, not even your government. It is Islamic eschatology which will explain the world today. And at the heart of Islamic eschatology, or ilmu akhirul zaman, is the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. Let me repeat that if you reject belief in the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam, you can't guide Muslims in this age. No, because you cannot yourself understand the reality of the world in the end time. We now turn to a hadith in Sahih Bukhari, in which Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam said, and it is a very short hadith, you can memorize it before you leave the masjid tonight. Kayfa antum? How will you be at that time? Oh, what a wonderful time that would be. إِذَا نَزَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ نُ مَرْيَمْ, when the son of Mary will descend amongst you. Oh, so he's not descending in Rome. Oh no. When the son of Mary descends amongst you, whether they like it or whether they don't, when Jesus comes back, he's coming to us. He's descending amongst Muslims. كيف أنتم إذا نزل عليكم ابن مريم وإمامكم منكم. And at that time, your Imam would be from within your own ranks. He would be a Muslim. And so there is an Imam in the end time. And the advent of that Imam, I'm going to use another big word now. First one was eschatology. The advent of that Imam will be contemporaneous. Long word, huh? Contemporaneous, meaning at the same time with the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. The advent of that Imam would be at the same time with the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. But he would have to come before. And then after he has come, then Nabi Isa alayhi salam will come. Who is that Imam who will emerge in the end time? And who is an Imam? And what will be the implications of the emergence of an Imam at that time? These are fascinating questions. We have to simply leave Sahih Bukhari and go to Sahih Muslim and we get the answer that Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam prophesied that that Imam would be known as Imam Mahdi, the rightly guided Imam. And we also are told that he is going to be from the seed of Muhammad sallallahu ta'ala alayhi wasallam, from his daughter Fatima radiyallahu ta'ala anha. So he's going to be an Arab. I don't think he can be an Indonesian, or Malaysian. He has to be an Arab. Okay. This Imam who will emerge at the time when Nabi Isa alayhi salam is to return is not only from the seed of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam, but we also have a description of his physical features, a broad forehead and a large nose and so on. And we also know something about his functions. That at that time the world will be filled with oppression. Well, it has already come. Modern Western civilization has now been hijacked to deliver to the world more oppression than mankind has ever witnessed. And yet there are those who have eyes and yet cannot see. And their Qibla is in Washington. And they long to get a green card and a US passport. So I say, please go and don't come back. Please go and don't come back. You don't belong to us. You belong to the Jamaat of the oppressors. At that time there will be oppression in the world, all over the world. And he, this man, will break those chains of oppression and bring justice to the world. So this is going to be a revolutionary change to transform a world filled with oppression to a world of justice and of peace. And then the world will experience what Islam has to offer. This would be an Imam who would come at a time of great poverty and destitution in the world. Well, it has already come. All those who stand up to Dajjal are today miserably poor. And all those who are faithfully following Dajjal are living in the comfort zone. That's what the Prophet prophesied. But when the Imam comes, he's going to share wealth to the people. Would it be US dollars? The last thing I heard about the US dollar was that it was in ICU in some hospital. Would it be the French francs or the Malaysian ringgit? Come on, wake up and stop this nonsense. Stop this nonsense. If you did not know it before, maybe tonight you should start to learn, that knowledge may enter into your head. The money that we are now using has come from Dajjal. If you've not studied international monetary economics, come to me and I'll teach it to you. The money that we are now using has come from Dajjal. The paper currencies have come from Dajjal. The electronic money which is taking over from the paper currencies have come from Dajjal. And they're functioning as an instrument, not only for the unjust transfer of wealth from the unsuspecting masses to a global predatory elite, but more than that, they're bringing a system of slavery upon the world, enslaving mankind. And Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam prophesied that in the end time there will be slavery. He said a slave woman, you remember? Don't you? He said a slave woman will give birth to her mistress. Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam told us that Imam is going to share wealth. Which kind of money? Oh, you know it. I don't have to tell you. It's the money which is in the Quran. When last did you open the Quran and look in the Quran to see whether there is money in the Quran? Huh? Is the dinar in the Quran? Yes, it is. Is the dirham in the Quran? Yes, it is. That's bad news for some of you who have neglected the Quran. And so he's going to share dinar and dirham, money that Allah ordained to be used as money. And if we had been using that money, Indonesia would not be miserably poor today. And Egypt would not be miserably poor today. And Bangladesh and Pakistan and Afghanistan would not be miserably poor today. And Africa would not be miserably poor today. He will share that money to such an extent that no one would be willing to accept zakat. What a world that is going to be tomorrow. This Imam is called Imam, but the word Imam here is synonymous with Amir or leader. So he is not only Imamul Mahdi, he is Amirul Mu'mineen, the leader of the believers. So would he be the head of the Egyptian Muslims alone? And you have another one for the Malay, another one for the Indonesians? Huh? Or is he going to be the leader of all Muslims? Come on, answer me today. Answer me today! You know, he prophesied about the end time, that knowledge will disappear. Knowledge will disappear. And here's the evidence, that when that Imam comes, he is going to be Amirul Mu'mineen. So then what are you going to do with your Egyptian citizenship and your Egyptian passport? I don't want to go further than that. What are you going to do with your constitution of Egypt and your Syrian constitution your pledge of loyalty to the state. Huh? What are you going to do? I know what we are going to do. We never gave up in our heart. We never gave up in our hearts loyalty to the Imam and to the Amir. No, we never gave it up, because we never accepted the substitute. And we will never accept the substitute. He's also known not only as Imam, not only as Amir al-Mu'mineen, but also as Khalifa. And this brings us to our difference of opinion with the Shia. We hold the view that the Shia are Muslims. Oh yes. And we give evidence to support that. There is no fatwa which has achieved ijma'. No. Because the Shia have performed the Hajj continuously to this day. No one has stopped them. And so the ijma' of the Ummah is that the Shia are Muslims. And if they are Muslims, then you have to relate to them as brothers. Ruhama'u baynahum. And if you differ with them, you must differ in a way which is constructive and not destructive. We say that the first Amir, the first Imam, the first Khalifa was Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And then after him was Umar Farooq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And after him was Uthman Ghani radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And after him was Ali radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, Ali ibn Abi Talib radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And we have said, and we have not spoken with hostility and bitterness and enmity. We have spoken with sadness in our hearts. That if you declare of Abu Bakr as-Siddiq radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, that he was a usurper who stole somebody else's position, we say that you are misguided. If you're annoyed with us, what can we do? But facts are facts. And we say that if you say that Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu was also a usurper, we say that's double misguidance. And if you compound that by saying that Uthman Ghani radiallahu ta'ala anhu was also misguided, we say, come on, it's time to wake up from your sleep. And we're not speaking these words with bitterness and with anger and with hostility. We're speaking these words with sadness. And it's because we call them the Khilafah that we say that the Imam who is to come will also be Khalifa. What is the implication now of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sending to us a Khalifa and saying to him that he will be from within your own ranks? كَيْفَ أَنْتُمْ إِذَا نَزَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ نُمَرْيَمْ وَإِمَامُكُمْ مِنْكُمْ. And your Imam will now be from within your own ranks. Very clearly to me, this hadith is anticipating a time will come when we will no longer have Khilafah. No, that we will be ruled by those who are not Muslims. There is no authentic Islamic rule anywhere in the world today, because those who rule us are not Muslims. Where's the evidence? When last did you take up the Charter of the United Nations Organization? And if you are in Iran and you listen to this lecture, I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you. Take up the Charter of the United Nations Organization and open it and read, I believe it is 24 and 25, but I can be mistaken. I've been traveling for 5 months now, so I can make mistakes. It could be 24 and 25 or 25 and 26. Where the Charter of the United Nations says, in effect, that in all matters pertaining to international peace and security, Allah is not Al-Akbar. No, the Security Council of the United Nations is Al-Akbar, meaning there is no authority above it. That is shirk. And so once you are a member of the United Nations organization, your Amir al-Mu'mineen, your Khalifa, your leader, your ruler, ultimate ruler is the Security Council of the United Nations. And so you can call yourself an Islamic Republic, like Pakistan used to do before it became an American republic. And I don't say this to ridicule the Pakistani people, because I studied in Pakistan and my heart beats with the people of Pakistan who are imprisoned in Pakistan because they don't have the freedom to choose their own leader. Their leader is chosen in Washington by the Zionists. And so a time is going to come when we will be ruled by those who are not from within our own ranks. So you had Amir al-Mu'mineen George Bush. But that's not going to last forever. No. When Imam Mahdi comes, that's goodbye to the substitute that they gave us for the Khilafah. Dajjal gave us the modern secular state. And the modern secular state has replaced the Khilafah. And all of mankind, illa masha'Allah, have pledged their allegiance to the modern secular state, loyal to the modern secular state and to its constitution. And as a consequence have said goodbye to Allah and to the Khilafah. But you and I have not done that. In our hearts we are faithful to Allah and to His Messenger. And in our hearts we are faithful to Islam's model of a political state, the Khilafah. And in our hearts we long for that day when the Imam will emerge and the Khilafah will be restored. Is it possible for the Khilafah to be restored before the Imam emerges? There is a hadith in Sahih Muslim that a Khalifa will die and there will be disagreement concerning succession. I think you already guessed who it's going to be. There will be disagreement concerning succession. And then a man will emerge out of Medina. Remember Medina, not Jakarta, Medina. And he will hurry to Mecca. And the people of Mecca will come out to him and urge him and try to force him to accept the bay'ah. No, we have a problem here. We haven't heard this word for years and years and years and years. The word bay'ah has been put in something called the cold storage. So we got to go to the cold storage now and pull it out. What is this bay'ah? It is the pledge of allegiance which legitimizes the role of the Khalifa. That is bay'ah. And it is an institution that is located in the Quran and in the Sunnah of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. When he accepts the bay'ah, at that time he will confirm and proclaim himself to be Imam al-Mahdi. Now then, I made this comment, and I did not make this comment in any disrespectful way. No. I was merely speaking facts. And if Imran is not allowed to speak facts, what should he talk about? I said that Mecca has never been a Shia city. Is that true? Or is that false? Tell me. I never said that there are no Shia in Saudi Arabia. Now you come to hit me with a left uppercut for something I never said. Please have some respect for your own intellect and don't quote people wrongly. What I said is that Mecca has never been a Shia city. Is that true or is that false? There is nothing to suggest to us that that situation will change in the future and that Mecca will transform itself and become a Shia city. There is no evidence to support that. And therefore we ask, how can a people of Mecca who are not Shia, how can they go out and pledge allegiance to a Shia? If you have an answer, I'd be happy to get the answer. You can send me an email. And I am not wearing any boxing gloves. No, this is not the age for that. This is a reasoned discourse that is being presented tonight. And so I conclude that the Imam cannot be Shia. This is my conclusion. If you differ with me, that does not mean that we should have boxing gloves fighting each other. No. Now then, the argument is raised that because the Prophet ﷺ used the word Khalifa, a Khalifa will die. The implication is that the Khilafah will be restored before the advent of Imam Mahdi. But have you forgotten that hadith with which we began? كيف أنتم إذا نزل عليكم ابن مريم وإمامكم منكم? Why should the Prophet ﷺ say to us that this Imam will be from your own ranks when we already have the Khilafah? It has already been restored and our Imams are already from our own ranks. Why should he say that? My understanding is that the hadith is clear that prior to the advent of Imam al-Mahdi, it is not possible to restore the Khilafah. No. And therefore, when the word Khalifa is used, a Khalifa will die. The Prophet ﷺ is referring to a Muslim ruler. Who could it be? Oh, the answer is clear. It has to be a Saudi king. We could have 5,000 princes out there waiting, struggling, fighting to take over. And there's already sufficient evidence of internal conflicts and rivalries within the big Saudi clan. So, a Saudi king will die. It can't be Fahad because he's already dead. Would it be Abdullah? I don't think so. And I'll let you know why in a moment. When that Saudi king dies and there is disagreement concerning succession, it is at that time that Allah will send the Imam. Is the Imam born already? This is not arrogance on my part. No. When I say, I don't know and I don't want to know. So please don't send me emails asking me whether the Imam has been born already. What is important is that Allah places a cover and Allah conceals him. And no one knows that he is the Imam until that moment arrives. When the king, the Khalifa dies and there is disagreement and so on, then he proclaims himself to be the Imam. Until that moment, we don't know who is the Imam. So is he born already? No, come on. I don't know and I don't want to know. Having disposed of these questions, now what are the implications of the advent of the Imam? The first and major implication of the advent of the Imam is that the substitute that Dajjal had created to replace the Khilafah, that substitute, your modern state, will now return to the garbage bin of history from where it came out in the first place. Why do I use such harsh language? What is the Khilafah state? The Khilafah state is a state established for the first time by Nabi Dawood alayhi salam in the Holy Land, the holy state of Israel, restored in Medina by Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. The Khilafah state is a state which recognizes Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as Al-Malik. Al-Malik. They translate Al-Malik as the king. Whereas in political terminology, it should be translated as a sovereign. So sovereignty in the Khilafah state resides with Allah. The modern secular state which came from Dajjal says, no, no. Allah is not Al-Malik. Sovereignty does not reside with Allah. Sovereignty resides with the state. The state is sovereign. The people are sovereign, not the Lord who created them. You don't need a PhD to understand that that is shirk. And that's the one sin that Allah will never forgive. For those of us who just have a few steps left before the grave, it's a wake-up call for us to make tawbah before it's too late. The Khilafah state recognizes Allah's authority as supreme. He is Al-Akbar. The modern secular state says, no, the authority of the state is supreme. There is no authority above the state. And the states are all organized under the United Nations organization. And the United Nations organization has at its top the Security Council. And the authority of the Security Council of the United Nations is Al-Akbar, not Allah. Dajjal created that. And instead of worshipping Allah, we are worshipping Dajjal. The Khilafah state says that Allah is Al-Hakam, the supreme lawmaker. His law is the supreme law. And when He says haram, no one can make it halal. And when He says halal, no one can make it haram. And in Surah At-Tawbah, there is a verse of the Quran which declares that to be shirk, to legalize and make legal what Allah has made haram. That is shirk. The modern secular state says, no, Allah is not Al-Hakam. Parliament is Al-Hakam. Parliament makes the law. And the law that comes from Parliament and the law that comes from the United Nations is the supreme law. The modern secular state says more than that. If I am wrong, would you kindly correct me? The modern secular state says that Allah can make it haram, but we can make it halal. And everything, or almost everything, because we have not reached New York as yet. In New York, they now legalize the marriage of a man with a man. In New York, they have now legalized the marriage of a man with a man, and yet you want this, you want your green card, to become an American citizen, So go and stay there and never come back. Those are your people, not ours. The modern secular state says Allah can make it haram, but we can legalize it. Shall I give you some examples? Would you be interested? Did you know that Allah prohibited money being lent on interest? Did you know that? Huh? You know that? And did you know that Allah has declared war? War on the money lender lending money on interest? Did you know that? And did you know that Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam has cursed all four and declared that they are all equally guilty? The one who takes riba, the one who gives riba, the one who records the transaction, and the two witnesses. Did you know that he said that riba is constituted of 70 different parts? Hadith of Ibn Majah. That riba is constituted of 70 different parts, and the smallest part of riba is equivalent to a man marrying his own mother. And do you know what the modern secular state has done? Even in Saudi Arabia, all around the world, they've made it halal. Don't believe me? There's something called a bank outside there in Subang Jaya. Go and ask them whether they lend money on interest. Ask them whether it is haram or halal in Malaysia to lend money on interest. Go and ask them. I can go on and on and on and on. This is a substitute for the Khilafah. But let me say something more. In the Khilafah state, so long as we Muslims have control over territory, that territory is designated Darul Islam. Now look at that. That's another term I have to take out of the cold storage. You better keep the lid open for me. Darul Islam. And in Darul Islam, every Muslim has the right to enter. All that you have to do is to declare La ilaha illallah Muhammadur Rasulullah, and you have the right to enter. You don't need a visa. In Darul Islam, every Muslim has the right to enter. You don't need a visa. So Indonesia is 90-something% Muslim. So I go to Indonesia, I present myself before the immigration officer, I raise my hand, say, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. Immigration officer looks at me. Where has this fellow come from? He says, where's your visa? Show me your visa. La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah can't work here. Are you understanding the situation? In Darul Islam, every Muslim has the right to reside. You don't need a PR, it's called, permanent residence, PR. Huh? Very difficult, eh? PR. No. Once you're a Muslim, you have the right to reside. In Darul Islam, every Muslim has the right to seek his livelihood. You don't need a work permit. I told you, he said, that in the end times, knowledge will disappear. This knowledge has disappeared to such an extent that now some people cannot even digest it. They don't agree with it. No. In Darul Islam, every Muslim has the right to participate in the political process. The political process in Islam is called a shura, on the basis of equality with all other Muslims. You don't need citizenship. This is Darul Islam. That substitute has divided us, broken up Darul Islam, and replaced it with something that is very bad. Let me use a soft language. Very bad. Very bad. And so in 1988, when I came to Malaysia for the first time, I was the principal of the Alimia Institute of Islamic Studies in Pakistan. And the Muslim, what is it called? An Islamic organization in England, Muslim Institute for Research and Planning, founded by our dear brother Dr. Karim Siddiqui rahimahullah. May Allah have mercy on the soul of our dear brother. The Muslim Institute in London and Parti Islam in Malaysia combined to organize a seminar in Hajj, on Hajj. And I was chosen to come from Pakistan to be one of the speakers in that seminar. And I said that it is wrong to take the Islamic movement and register it as a political party and fight elections under the constitution of a modern state that has come from Dajjal. Pass was not too happy with me. No. The same thing was done in Pakistan by Maulana Maududi rahimahullah with the Jamaat Islami. The same thing was done in the Arab world, the movement founded by Hassan al-Banna rahimahullah, the Ikhwan al-Muslimin. That you take the Islamic movement, you register it as a political party, and you fight in elections under a constitution of a state created by Dajjal, built on the foundations of shirk. That is not the Sunnah. Well then what is the Sunnah? And what is the guidance from the Quran? When you studied this book on Gog and Magog, when you studied Ilmu Akhirul Zaman, Islamic Eschatology, and my book entitled Jerusalem in the Quran, most of you probably already read this book. It was written 10 years ago. It qualifies as the textbook on Islamic eschatology, and we now have it in Bahasa. We have it in Bahasa outside. When you study the subject of Ilmu Akhirul Zaman, then you understand that the proper response to Dajjal, Dajjal's money, Dajjal's economy based on riba, Dajjal's political system based on the modern secular state and its shirk, and the Security Council of the United Nations as Al-Akbar, the proper response is to flee from Dajjal. To flee from Dajjal. And to try to restore the micro-Khilafah wherever you can, until the time comes when the macro-Khilafah can be restored, when Imam Mahdi comes. That micro-Khilafah I have described as the Muslim kampung, the Muslim village. And I know that I'm out of Dajjal's reach when I go to a kampung where I cannot use a cell phone. Now I know I'm out of his reach. Over there we will try as best as we can to restore dinar and dirham as money in the market. And we will not use this bogus and fraudulent and utterly haram paper and electronic money. In that kampung we'll try to restore the Amir and the Bay'ah. And we will refuse to give our allegiance to the modern secular state. And we say this is micro-Khilafah, waiting for macro-Khilafah when Imam Mahdi comes. This is not a place where you will be opting out of jihad. Oh no. The baby boys who are born in this kampung will fight better on the battlefield from Khorasan in the Muslim army that will liberate the Holy Land. The baby boys born in this kampung will fight like lions, much better than yours from KLCC. So the Muslim kampung is not a place to go and sleep. Now then, we come to a very unfortunate event. One of the outstanding scholars of this age, and now my remarks are directed particularly to Pakistan. One of the outstanding Islamic scholars of this age was a man named Dr. Muhammad Iqbal. I recognize him as a great scholar, and I recognize him as a great poet. Unfortunately, my knowledge of the Farsi language and the Urdu language is not good enough to appreciate the beauty of his poetry. But I don't have any problems with his poetry. What the problems that I have is with what he has written in the English language. And I have more than a passing acquaintance with the English language. Dr. Iqbal argued in a book which he published entitled The Reconstruction of Religious Thought in Islam, which most Pakistanis have not read. And those who do try to read it probably give up before they've finished 2 or 3 pages, because you need a whole bottle of Tylenol tablets for headache. Iqbal is writing pure philosophy. I have a master's degree in philosophy, and for me, it's a headache, so much less for you. I admire the first 2 chapters a lot, because in the first 2 chapters of that book, he takes on Dajjal. You know, the 1 eye and the 2 eyes? The epistemology of the modern West. And Iqbal has delivered the best defense of the epistemology of the Quran that has ever been written. But very few people can understand it. So those first 2 chapters are written in gold. But elsewhere, Iqbal has made this mountain of a mistake in declaring that the modern state, he calls it the Republican state. Actually, it's a secular state. The modern state, he says, can function as a substitute for the Khilafah. That's wrong. And if we say that our teacher made a mistake, we are not disrespecting our teacher. No, he still remains a great scholar. We still respect him. We are not disrespecting him when we say that this Iqbal has made a mountain of a mistake in declaring that the modern secular state with its parliament can be a substitute for the Khilafah. Iqbal then compounded that error by agreeing with Ibn Khaldun that all the ahadith on Imam Mahdi are all fabricated. Now don't come and tell me what Iqbal has said in Urdu poetry. No, don't come and tell me that. I know what he said in Urdu poetry. We're talking about what he said in English. And the impact of Iqbal's thought on the Pakistani intelligentsia. Iqbal does not believe in the return of Nabi Isa alayhi salam. No. Iqbal does not believe in Dajjal. No. I ask you, how can you beat the drums of Iqbal in Pakistan today to extricate Pakistan from the mess in which it is? He is not the answer. Yes, there is much we can learn from him. Yes, Iqbal can inspire our people with his Urdu verse. But Iqbal in English is not the guide to take the Pakistani people out of the awesome predicament in which they are. And so I wrote this book, Iqbal and Pakistan's Moment of Truth. I want the cameras to capture it. Because tonight in Masjid Al-Ihsan in Subang Jaya, we are launching this book for the first time. It is only 84 pages, so you could finish it in 1 weekend. And in this book, I have attempted very respectfully, how many times am I to repeat it? I have attempted very respectfully to critically assess the thought of a great scholar. and to point out errors which he has made, while yet respecting him as a great scholar. Now then, when Imam Mahdi emerges, at that time, the Gog and Magog war will take place. This book explains it. An Islamic view of Gog and Magog in the modern world, and one person will have to come forward and volunteer to translate here to Bahasa, inshallah. At that time, the clash takes place between the American-led alliance, the Russian-led alliance. The nuclear war takes place with thousands of nuclear weapons exploding. I think that will be the moment when this verse of Suratul Isra will be fulfilled. Suratul Isra, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives the warning, وَإِن مِّن قَرْيَةٍ إِلَّا نحن مهلكوها قبل يوم القيامة أو معذبوها عذابا شديدا كان ذلك في الكتاب مسطورا. It is as though you're hearing the verse for the first time, because you've never heard the verse in the context in which it's being given now. And not a single city will escape. None. They will all be destroyed, says Allah. All. And those which escape destruction will be punished with terrible punishment. And this is a matter inscribed in the Kitab. Maybe that if you're out of electronic range, you know, the cell phone, you will not be incinerated. This is the end of modern Western civilization dominance over the world. Maybe another 20, 25 years, that's all we have to endure. This is the end of the modern secular state and all the patriotism it demands of us. And this is the time when Darul Islam will be restored, whether they like it or whether they don't. This is the time when the Khilafah will be restored. This is the time when Imam al-Mahdi will rule over us. The Shia who follow him at that time are our brothers. The Sunni who follow him at that time, I don't think there'll be many Sunnis following him. They will say, he's a terrorist. Our brothers. And so Shia and Sunni, both following the Imam, will constitute the Ummah of Nabi Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. When will that happen? How much time is there left? Let us attend to this and we'll then end the lecture. Imam al-Mahdi cannot emerge until Allah ordains that he must emerge. So no government has charge over this. When will Allah ordain that he must emerge? Because as soon as he emerges, he's going to head for Makkah and he's going to proclaim himself the Imam. An army will then march against him from Sham. And that army, as it crosses Medina, going south to Makkah, will be swallowed by the third khas. One in the east, one in the west, one in Arabia. When that army is swallowed by the earth, that is the validation. That is the conclusive validation that this man is indeed the Imam. Not eclipses in the sky. The sinking of the earth. When that army sinks down into the earth and is swallowed, then the Abdal from Sham and Al-Iraq will come to the Imam to offer bay'ah. The Sufis have hijacked this word, Abdal. So I got to take it back from them. I got to take it back from them. And they say that the Abdal are some mysterious people. There are always only 40 of them and so on, and they have the bowl in their hands and so on. Abdal means when one dies, another one replaces him. This one dies, another one replaces him. This one dies, another one replaces him. The Abdal. So if you're listening, Washington, let us introduce you to the Abdal. When you don't have any more money to buy white people from South Africa to go and fight for you in Iraq and in Afghanistan, you know, white South Africans. When you have no more money to offer bribes of green card and citizenship to get people to go and join the American army, go and kill Muslims. You're running out of soldiers. I want you to know, Washington, that we will never run out. We will never run out. Because when one dies, another one takes his place. And when he dies, another one takes his place. These are the words of Muhammad alayhi salatu. These are the Abdal. They are the Mujahideen who are waging a just struggle for liberation from oppression and liberation from occupation of the land. They will now come to give the bay'ah to Imam Mahdi. Imam will now be attacked from an army of the Quraysh, said the Prophet ﷺ. An army of the Kalb, and he will defeat that army. Would it be a Saudi army? Looks very much like that to me. Looks very much like that to me. But Allah knows best. When he defeats that army, then Jaziratul Arab. Oh, another term out of the cold storage. See, good thing we left the door open, eh? Jaziratul Arab. When last did you hear that term? Jaziratul Arab is the Arabian Peninsula. Today it has been hijacked, and there is an obnoxious name called the the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Squatting. So there will be no more Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. It is Jaziratul Arab will be restored. And when Jaziratul Arab is liberated, then Darul Islam is restored. This is the implication. Now tell me, would you release Imam al-Mahdi into the world when the Zionists have read all of these ahadiths? They know it all. Would you release Imam al-Mahdi into the world before Israel replaces the United States as the ruling state? It doesn't make sense. No. Would you release Imam al-Mahdi into the world before Israel rules the world? And Dajjal is in his day, which is like a week. You have to read this book, Jerusalem in the Quran, to understand that. Israel is about to launch her big wars, either this year or next year, attacking Pakistan to destroy the nuclear plants and nuclear weapons, attacking Iran, attacking Egypt, so you can occupy the territory from the river Nile to the river Euphrates. If you want to know why, there's a book outside entitled The Religion of Abraham and the State of Israel, a view from the Quran. My view, and Allah knows best, is that Allah will not release Imam al-Mahdi into the world until Dajjal has completed his mission, or he is very close to completion of his mission. And so Dajjal has to be born. He has to be born of Jewish parents. He's not been born as yet, but he's already created modern Western civilization because he's already released into the world. He's already released into the world. He's close to the end of his mission, but he's not as yet been born as a human being. When he's born as a human being, he'll be a Jew. He'll grow up to be a young man, he'll be powerfully built, he'll have curly hair. He'll rule the world from Jerusalem. And then he will proclaim, I am the Messiah, Al-Mahdi, Al-Masih. And when they accept him as Al-Masih, he can rub his hands and he can say, come on, help me. Mission accomplished. I've given them a 6 for a 9, I've deceived them. And now they've been taken to the greatest destruction that they will ever experience in history. Banu Israel. And so by my calculation, and Allah knows best, we are still probably another 20, 25 years away before that event occurs when Imam al-Mahdi will emerge. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا يا مولانا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين آمين.